Hello everybody and welcome to another Stellaris video. In today's video, we're going to be going over everything you need to do to min-max your planets and maximize the effectiveness of your pops. This video is going to be about how you should arrange your planets, what you should build on them, and how to generally manage them throughout the game to maximize your progression and resource outputs. Do keep in mind this is going to be a planet-specific guide, so we won't be going over what builds are strong or what ascensions are strong, which also affect the final efficiency of your population, but more how you can manage your planets specifically and what techs and buildings you should be building to maximize their output. The first thing I want to go over is just understanding the planet GUI and everything you need to know about a planet. First of all, if we take a look in the upper right hand corner here, we see the habitability and the size. These are two very important statistics, as the habitability affects the general efficiency of the pops that work on the planet, and the size affects the total number of districts you can build. And what is a district? Well, if we take a look at our planet, we have the buildings and districts area here, and then we have the basic resource zones at the bottom. Essentially, if you see this little bar here, 3 out of 20, 3 out of 6, this represents the maximum number of each different kinds of these districts we can have, and the size 20 means we can have a maximum of 20 districts between these different kinds of districts. Now, do keep in mind this can be expanded through technologies and traditions later on, so your planet can end up quite a bit larger than its actual size. However, this is a general restriction to what you can build on the planets. The next thing we need to know about is specialization zones, which are parts by default of the districts and buildings section, where we have two specializations. Currently, one is archives and one is a mixed industry. By clicking on the districts and buildings area and then going all the way to the right, we can swap out these specializations. And by swapping out these specializations, we're going to change the kind of jobs we are getting from these districts and building sections. For example, if I wanted to focus on engineering tech, I could swap my archive zone for an engineering tech zone, and then let's turn on instant build to make this quickly, and then all of a sudden my planet will be giving more engineering tech than before and having more engineering jobs. So this is a basic outline of how you can change what your planet is focused on by swapping over these specialization districts. In addition, now, every single time we build a city district on our capital by clicking on this build button here, we're going to get the jobs specified by our two specialization districts, right? So, for example, if I build a city district now, I'll get 100 engineering jobs. However, if I swap this second specialization zone over to another engineering specialization, now I get 200 engineering jobs every single time I build a city district. This is one way you can min-max what your planet is for, and I would highly recommend having specific planets for specific resource types. The reason for this is every single resource type in Stellaris has certain buildings unlocked behind certain technologies that boost the output. We're going to go ahead and go over every single one of these later on in the video, so every single resource type will have an overview of all the techs and the tech tree parts you need to complete in order to gain access to these buildings. For example, currently this planet is producing 121 engineering research. By building a materials workshop, a building that boosts engineering jobs, we now get 165. And not only that, every single one of these engineers is now producing one more engineering tech per 100 researchers than they were previously. And if I were to say upgrade this again, we can see that we're going to increase the amount of engineering tech we are getting from our planet simply by adding these buildings. There are many efficiency modifiers for tech. For example, we can add the data-driven research facility, giving us another 15% boost, and then a research institute, another building that gives a +2 boost to every single researcher type in exchange for upkeep of resources. In addition, for most resource types in the game, there's also a building that decreases the upkeep of these job types. For example, the research supply depot is a research that gives -20% upkeep from researcher jobs. This is very efficient to have as well, as it can lower the burden on your consumer goods as the game goes on. Now I'm going to place all the techs you need for research on the screen now, and you can go ahead and pause and copy these, or do whatever you need to memorize this, and I also will have the tech tree linked down below so you can, memorize what you need to get all the certain tech buildings in the game. Now, that's all the modifiers for tech. So what about all the other planets in the game? So let's go through them one by one, explain what a basic planet looks like and what an advanced planet looks like. The next thing every Stellaris player should know about managing their planets is making sure you are actually working the job types you intend to be working. This can be done through the job screen, and by clicking on a specific job, say the engineer, it'll prioritize this job over other ones. You can prioritize up to 2 jobs on every planet, and these jobs will fill up first. However, sometimes you can't prioritize 2 jobs that are in the same classification. And there's 3 classifications: elites, specialist, and workers. In general, workers make basic resources, specialists make advanced resources and better. And specialists are usually the core to most people's empires, and you want to have as many workers as you need to support the specialists and above. Elites, you typically don't have many, but they're very, very efficient as well. You just don't get that many of them. So anyways, just make sure you go into your jobs and always you prioritize the ones that you need the most on every planet, because sometimes you'll find that your population is going into jobs you don't need. For example, on this planet, we have very good stability, very good a good amount of population, 0 crime, 0 housing requirements, and overcap on amenities. What this means is we could actually work no enforcers and no entertainers, and we take almost no penalty for this. Our crime is 10%. There are no downsides to crime if it is below 30%. So 29% and under is a safe amount of crime to have on a planet, meaning you don't need to work any of these jobs. So I would highly recommend that every player starts to learn to figure out which jobs that need to be prioritized and which ones don't, and I'll be going over that throughout this video and right now. Anyhow, the next thing I want to get into is how to make every single different kind of resource. Now that everyone has hopefully learned something about managing jobs on each planet, let's go ahead and build up a basic resource world to show you guys every building or tech you need to maximize your basic resource planets. Here are all the relevant techs that you should be aiming for to max out your basic resources shown on screen now. So go ahead and lock that in. And now let's build up a basic mineral planet as an example of a basic resource planet that you're going to want in most of your playthroughs. Let's go ahead and start with the mining district and see the result. By prioritizing the mining job and building a mining district, let's also just move over some pops willy-nilly here. We can see that we are producing 38 minerals from 200 miner jobs. Now, this is going to be higher than most of your worlds in the beginning because this is a fully ascended empire. But we can do much better than this. So let's go ahead and get started first by building a mineral extraction zone. This is just something you can do after you get the tech for it in every playthrough, and it gives you extra jobs and 3 building slots on your basic resource district of choice. In fact, I would recommend even on every basic resource world, by the end game, you build 1 district and the focus zone just for the building slots, as it only costs a single district slot out of every planet, which is not very much, and getting 3 building slots for it can be quite worth it. Anyhow, back to the minerals. Every single basic resource, minerals included, has a purification plant equivalent that can boost the output of the job in question. For example, we get plus 20% from miners and a plus 2 base output. With the mineral plant, we're up to 64 minerals, and now let's go ahead and add in some of the bigger modifiers. The first one is support zones. I would highly recommend support zones for most playthroughs, where for every single support zone, you have only an amazing plus 20% bonus to the output in exchange for a small amount of trade upkeep, but do keep in mind that you get trader jobs from this district as well. The other thing you might have noticed is we can't build a second specialization zone, which is not very good because that is locked behind the capital building. What is a capital building? Well, a capital building is a very important building that you're going to want to max out on every single planet, as for every single tier, it gives you a lot of good resources plus extra job efficiency. This makes it so that built up planets that are have upgraded capital buildings can be quite a bit more efficient than other ones. In order to upgrade your capital building, you're going to need to move to get a certain number of pops on the planet. And the breakpoints are 1,000, 2,500, and then 5,000 pops to max out your capital building. And here are the texts you need to do so on screen now. Lock that in, and let's go ahead and start this planet. So on the first tier of capital building, we upgrade our second specialization district, which is very nice. At 2,500 pops, we become a planetary capital, and we would need 5,000 pops to upgrade this again. Now, we also get access to the Tier 2 mineral purification, which can add even more bonuses to our miners. There are two other very important building types for basic resources. One is the building that gives extra districts. That one is very nice for when you get a planet with low numbers of natural districts. For example, 5 is not a crazy amount. However, with an industrial mining site, every single time we upgrade this building, it gives us 2 more to a maximum of +8 mining districts, giving us lots of space to build up lots of mining jobs. Let's clear these blockers quickly, which is also something you're going to want to do on all your planets to maximize the size, as blockers can reduce the number of districts you have. As you can see, we can now build up to 4 of these support districts, and our humble little planet here is now already making 1,000 minerals. The next thing you're going to want to do is there's a building that gives a flat amount of jobs, which is also nice. For example, the Surface Quarry Depot is a building you have near the start of the game, and then later on, if you're playing with Cosmogenesis, you can build the Quantum Drilling Plant that gives a whopping 600 miner jobs and can be upgraded to give 1,200 miner jobs, making this planet very, very tall for minerals. There's one more thing that every planet should have in the game, which is an orbital ring. And let's show all the text for that on the screen now. And every single time we need an orbital ring in the future, keep this in mind, as we're going to be building a lot of orbital rings in this video. Let's go ahead and very, very quickly now go to this new mining world and show you guys the difference. So currently we're making 910 minerals, and let's upgrade this and add in the refinery building. This is available for every resource in the game except for tech, that boosts the output of the resource on the planet below. This one is minerals, giving us +2 minerals from miners, and then we can also build habitation modules which increase the size of the planet below. This little planet here is now making 1,200 minerals without any additional workers, and in addition to that, we get some extra districts that we can use to build up our planet even further. The last thing you should know about every basic resource planet is every single ascension has some building that boosts the efficiency of the jobs. At least most of them do. For example, for Bioascension, which is what we're doing now, we can build the Genomic Research Facility. And by working genomic researcher jobs, we increase the pop efficiency on our planet, which is going to be at 1,600 minerals now. And as we add more of these buildings through, say, the Molecular Revitalization Institute, the Fallen Empire building, this will get even better, and it'll give us extra pop speed as well. Do keep in mind that every ascension gets access to a different set of buildings, and if we now just max out this planet by moving a whole bunch of pops over, I know they're not going to demote right away into the workers, we can see that we're going to get some really ridiculous levels of pop efficiency here, over 2,000 minerals on these 1,900 workers, and very soon we're going to get more workers as well. The last thing you should do, or this honestly should be the first thing you do, is designate the planet to the correct type. Mineral planet gives plus 35% resources from miners, and every time you ascend your planet, this benefit is going to increase even more, and you can ascend your planet up to 10 times. And yeah, you can see we're getting even more resources from pops now, and this will only increase as the game goes farther. So yeah, this is how you should run your basic resource planets. The next very important thing are advanced resources. Advanced resources should make up the bulk of your empire, and there are many ways to increase the efficiency of the production of advanced resources. Let's start with something like alloys. When we build an alloy planet, there are multiple buildings that increase both the efficiency or decrease the upkeep. You are going to want to build all of these. The first one is the alloy reclamation plant. This decreases the upkeep by a decent amount, minus 20%. You should have one of these on most of your alloy planets. The next important thing is the Metallurgic Research Lab. This is a building that gives plus 15% job efficiency for metallurgists. Once we upgrade our planet to a planetary capital, we'll get access to a Ministry of Production. This gives another 15% output to our alloy jobs, so we're kind of stacking a lot of positive modifiers now. And the last modifier, of course, is going to be the orbital ring. So let's go ahead and build a quick construction ship and get an orbital ring built. And every single advanced resource in the game, except for tech, has their own orbital ring building. Let's build the alloy one real quickly and kind of show how many positive modifiers we have on alloys now. With all our positive modifiers, our base of 8.13 alloy production is boosted all the way up to 21 for an over 200% increase in efficiency, which is really wild. After this, essentially all you want to do is build more city districts on your planet to get access to more metallurgist jobs. With the specialization zones, if you remember from earlier, every single time we build a city, we get access to more metallurgist jobs. And when you finally manage to clear out every single blocker and build up every single city district on an advanced resource world, you can then build it into an Ecumenopolis, locked behind the following text you're going to see here, and the tradition pick. And once you have an arcology project, which takes 10 years to build when you don't have instant build, you get access to an even larger planet and unspecialized arcology zones. Unspecialized arcology zones are very nice because for every single one you build, you get access to 3 more building slots, so we're going to want to include at least one unspecialized arcology for each of the districts down below, and then on our main district we can go ahead and max out the cities in order to maximize the number of jobs. The next thing we're going to need to do, just like the basic resources, is add the buildings that increase the efficiency of our pops from our ascension. So you're actually going to want to build these earlier on in the build order compared to what I've shown, probably as some of your first buildings depending on your ascension type, which is of course for me the genomic research facility, and then either the medical center, but since I have the tech for it, the molecular revitalization institute is simply better. Let's go ahead and add some of these. And now you can see we have much better pop efficiency. We're making 1500 alloys on this planet now, and if we look, there's an even crazier amount of modifiers. A base of 191 is now making almost 600 alloys, so we're almost at 300% pop efficiency, which is really awesome. And at this point, it's just about adding the production of advanced resources, which every empire needs, such as the super rare resources like the chemical plants or the exotic gas refiner, or genuinely whatever you need, dimensional fabricators, and of course forge buildings to fill up the rest of the building slots. By default, you'll have to build the alloy foundry. If you have fallen empire buildings, you can go ahead and build the hyper forges, which give the most jobs possible, and you can make a pretty insane alloy world. Since there are many different kinds of advanced resources, I'm going to show you each one of the original advanced resource buildings of planets I made because they're going to follow much of the same pattern. Build up your buildings that increase your pop efficiency, build up the buildings that are specific to the resource and decrease the upkeep of that resource, and then maximize the number of jobs. And for consumer goods, here are the techs. For soldiers, here are the relevant techs. And for tech, one more time in case we missed it earlier, here are the relevant techs and an example of a finalized planet. And if for some reason you're running a church-based build or a bureaucrat-based build, here are the techs and buildings for those. Bureaucrats and Prius are slightly different but have much the same buildings. And of course, there is a orbital ring building for every single one of these resources. And it shouldn't take too much explanation which ones you should build for which kind of planets. I hope it's pretty self-explanatory. The last one I wanted to mention is trade, as trade has the most overpowered Fallen Empire building in the entire game. The interstellar commerce, which increases the base output by 0.5, which can be stacked multiple times, and can also be stacked with merchant guilds to create the most ridiculously efficient job in Stellaris. I would highly recommend spamming at least one trade planet out as it can carry an entire game's economy on its own, and this doesn't even have a branch office from a megacorp that can help us out. So yeah, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, as this is, in my opinion, everything important you need to know about planetary management. Just to kind of summarize everything we've gone over in this video so far, is try to understand the difference between the specializations and the actual districts themselves. Make sure you fill out most of your advanced resource planets with city districts, and then make sure you fill out the other zones just to get access to the building slots, as those can be quite helpful. On basic resource planets, I would recommend having approximately one city district for every 2 of the actual mining or extraction district themselves. And as an additional efficiency modifier, if you would like to do so, you can go ahead and build 1 of each of the other district types, simply to get access to more building slots. I like to cover these in the ultra late game with storage depots, simply because having a large resource storage can make the game feel much more fun to play, as you don't have to consistently build up like ships and run out of storage or that kind of thing. So this is what I like to do with like an end game basic resource planet. Make sure you build up your rings, and there are a few more ways to extract efficiency from your planets as well that I haven't mentioned, which is mostly your leaders and niche kind of events. And those can be covered in another video, because that's a whole nother can of worms. There's just so much to know with Stellaris. Yeah, also make sure you set your designations, as if you forget, it can be a little bit expensive. I'd highly recommend that as well. And also just ascending all the planets to tier 10 at some point in the game, because you're going to have so much unity in the ultra late game, even if you don't have a unity planet, that this is definitely going to be worth it. Anyhow, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Subscribe for more tutorial videos, and yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.